Japanese builders burned their houses on purpose. Yes, you heard that right. On purpose. And the wood lasted over 100 years because of it. Right now, you have got wood on your home. Maybe it is your siding. Maybe it is your deck. Maybe it is your fence or your shed or the trim around your windows. And every single piece of it is rotting, slowly, quietly. From the moment it was installed, moisture has been creeping into those fibers. Insects have been testing it. The sun has been breaking it down, layer by layer. And you already know the drill because you have been living it. Every 3 to 5 years, you're out there scraping, sanding, priming, painting, or staining. You are spending $700 to $3,000 each time just to repaint siding. You are spending another $1,000 to $5,000 to restain a deck. And you're doing it again and again and again because every product you put on that wood is temporary. Every single one. The paint peels, the stain fades, the sealant cracks, and then the rot starts. Over 20 years, the average homeowner spends $8,000 to $15,000 just maintaining the wood on the outside of their house. And at the end of those 20 years, the wood needs replacing anyway. That is another $7,000 to $23,000 for new siding alone. Here is a number the paint industry does not advertise. The exterior paint and stain market in the United States alone is worth over $10 billion a year. That money exists because wood fails. Every can of paint, every gallon of stain, every tube of sealant is sold on one assumption, that wood cannot protect itself, that you need their product between your wood and the world forever, on repeat, every few years, until the wood gives up and you replace it. 300 years ago, on the other side of the planet, Japanese builders looked at the same problem and came to the exact opposite conclusion. They did not try to coat the wood. They did not try to seal it or paint it or wrap it in chemicals. They set it on fire, and it worked. It is still working. Right now, in fishing villages and port towns across Japan, there are buildings clad in charred wood that have been standing for over a century. No paint, no stain, no chemical treatment. Just burned cedar, exposed to typhoons and humidity and salt air, still solid, still protecting the families inside. The technique is called Yakisugi. In the West, people call it Shou Sugi. It was developed during the Edo period, sometime between the 1600s and the 1800s, when Japan's population was exploding and cities like Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo, were becoming some of the most densely packed places on Earth. Houses were wooden, fires spread fast, rot spread faster, termites were everywhere, and the poorest builders, the merchant class, could not afford stone or stucco, so they figured out something brilliant. They took cedar planks, stood 3 of them up together to form a triangle like a chimney, and lit a fire at the bottom. The flames raced up the inside, charring the surface of each board in minutes. Then they pulled the boards apart, doused them with water, and brushed off the loose soot. What was left was a hard, jet-black carbon shell fused to the surface of the wood. That carbon layer is the secret. And if you are the kind of person who wants to know why solutions like this get buried, make sure you are subscribed, because this channel exists to dig them up. The science behind it explains why the paint industry will never tell you about this. Wood is made of 2 main compounds, cellulose and lignin. Cellulose is the part that burns easily, that absorbs water, that fungi feed on, that insects chew through. It is the weak link. When you char the surface of a board, you burn away the cellulose first. What stays behind is mostly lignin and pure carbon. Carbon does not absorb water. Fungi cannot eat it. Insects will not touch it. And because the cellulose is already gone, the surface will not catch fire again easily. It needs much higher temperatures to reignite than untreated wood. So in one step, with nothing but fire and water, those Japanese builders made their wood waterproof, rot-proof, insect-proof, mold-proof, and fire-resistant. The charred layer acts like a suit of armor fused directly to the wood itself. It does not peel like paint. It does not crack like sealant. It does not wash off in the rain. It is the wood, just transformed. And it costs almost nothing. A propane torch and a wire brush, maybe a gallon of natural oil to finish it. Total material cost for treating a full board? About $2. You can do an entire shed wall for less than the price of a single can of deck stain. Now think about what that means for the industries that sell you exterior wood products. You paint your siding every 5 years. That is 4 or 5 repaint cycles over the life of the wood. At $700 to $3,000 per cycle, that is roughly $3,000 to $15,000 in paint alone for one house. Multiply that by 60 million owner-occupied homes with some form of wood exterior in the United States, and you start to see why nobody in the paint and siding industry is rushing to teach you this. Then there's the replacement cycle. Wood siding lasts 20 to 40 years before it needs replacing. The replacement costs $7,000 to $23,000. But charred wood, done properly with the right species, lasts 80 to over 100 years. One installation. No repainting, no restaining, no replacing. That is not a product. That is a permanent solution. And permanent solutions are terrible for business. And this is the part that connects the money to the silence. Nobody banned Yakisugi. Nobody had to. The Western building code system was simply never designed to accommodate it. Codes were written around painted and chemically treated lumber, the exact products that the coatings and chemical treatment industries helped standardize over the last century. Fire codes create the biggest barrier because a building inspector sees burned wood on a spec sheet and assumes hazard, which is the exact opposite of the truth. The charring process removes the most flammable component of the wood. Lab tests from Nakamoto Forestry showed that properly charred Japanese cypress achieved a Class A flame spread rating, the highest fire resistance classification for a building material. That is the same rating as concrete and steel. But try explaining that to a building inspector who has been taught that wood plus fire equals danger. The building code system in most of the United States was designed around products, not principles. And the products it was designed around are the ones the lumber treatment industry and the paint industry sell. Meanwhile, in Japan, charred wood cladding never stopped being used. Architects like Terunobu Fujimori and Kengo Kuma have built internationally celebrated buildings using Yakisugi. It is not a folk craft hiding in a museum. It is a living building tradition that high-end architects are now importing back to the West at premium prices, $20 to $40 per square foot for commercially manufactured charred boards. The irony is that the same technique that was originally a poor man's solution in 18th century Japan is now marketed as a luxury finish in 21st century America. But you do not need the luxury version. The traditional method is simple enough that a single person can do it in a backyard with 3 boards, some twine, and a fire. Japanese builders did it for centuries without power tools, without factories, and without a single chemical additive. The boards were tied into a triangular chimney, a fire was lit at the base, the flames traveled up and charred all 3 boards simultaneously in about 3 to 5 minutes, and then the fire was extinguished with water. You can do this today with cedar, cypress, or larch from any lumberyard. After charring, brush off the loose soot with a stiff bristle brush, then apply a coat of natural oil, tung oil, or linseed oil to lock in the carbon layer and give the surface a deep, rich finish. That is it. No primer, no top coat, no second application in 3 years. The oil soaks into the charred surface and creates a hydrophobic barrier that sheds water on contact. One treatment, one afternoon. Protection that outlasts your mortgage. No contractor, no scaffolding, no respirator mask from chemical fumes. Just fire, water, a brush, and oil. And here is the detail that should make you question everything you have been sold at the hardware store. The chemical wood preservatives that the industry sells you as essential, pressure-treated lumber, chromated copper arsenate, alkaline copper quaternary, those are pesticides, registered pesticides. The industry literally soaks your deck boards in poison and tells you it is protection. Then, when the chemicals leach out over time, which they do, you need to reapply sealant to keep the poison locked in. You're maintaining the maintenance. Meanwhile, the Japanese solution uses 0 chemicals, 0 toxins. Just heat. The charred wood is so clean that historically, leftover char was used as a soil amendment in Japanese gardens. You cannot do that with a pressure-treated 2x4. Fire does not destroy wood, not when you control it. Fire turns wood into its own permanent armor. Japanese builders understood this 300 years ago. The paint industry has spent the last century making sure you did not. Now you know. How many years have you been stuck in the repaint cycle? Spending thousands on products that peel off in 3 years when a $2 torch treatment lasts a century? Drop your number in the comments. And if you want to see what else the building industry has been hiding, that video is right here. Build once, protect forever. I will see you in the next one.